Welcome to aminacademy.com. In history of Byzantium, let us discuss about Battle of Yarmouk. After a devastating blow to the Sassanid Persians at Firas, Muslims Arab forces under the command of Khalid bin al-Walid took on the army of the Christian Byzantine Empire at Yarmouk near the border of modern-day Syria and Jordan. The Battle of Yarmouk, which began on August 20, 636, was at continue for 6 days. At the victory of at Firas, Khalid bin Walid virtually conquered Mesopotamia, seeking to halt Muslim expansion. The Byzantines rallied all available forces. Byzantine Empire, Heraclius, the victor of Nive, allied himself with the Sassanids, the two empires seeking to pool their depleted resources to stop the Arab advance. For his part, Heraclius assembled a large army of Byzantines, slaves, Franks, and Christian Arabs and stationed them at Antioch in North Syria. Heraclius sought to stall any battle by exploring diplomatic options while he waited for more forces to arrive from his Sassanid ally. Meanwhile, alarmed that the Byzantine-led force had assembled in Syria, while Muslim forces were fragmented into at least four separate groups. Khalid called a council of war and successfully argued that the entire Arab army be united to face Heraclius. Now, let us discuss further about the Battle of Yarmouk. The Battle of Yarmouk was a major military victory for the Muslim forces of the Rashidun Caliphate over a Byzantine Empire. When and where it happened. A battle took place on August 15 to 20, 636 CE near the Yarmuk River in what is now Syria and Jordan. The Muslim forces were led by Khalid bin al-Walid, while the Byzantine Empire was led by two generals, Theodore and Vahan. The Muslim forces won the decisive victory, losing 5,000 men to the Byzantine Empire's loss of 40,000. The victory allowed the Rashidun Caliphate to take control of much of Syria and the Levant. The Battle of Yarmouk was a major turning point in the Muslim conquest of the Levant and the end of the Roman rule in Syria. It was also the first major Muslim conquest after the death of the Islamic Prophet Muhammad. Strategic factors. The Muslim forces were united, disciplined, and strategically adept. The Byzantine Empire was hampered by internal disagreements between its commanders. Terrain. The battle took place in an arid landscape with rocky terrain and the Yarmuk River. The Battle of Yarmuk River or Yarmuk River, also written as the Battle of Jabiya-Yarmuk, was fought over the course of 6 days from 15 to 20 August 336 CE between the Muslim army of the Rashidun Caliphate under Khalid bin al-Walid and the Byzantine legions under field commander Vahan of Armenia. Fighting took place near the Yarmuk River in the Jordan Valley, and the battle was a decisive victory for the heavily outnumbered Rashidun army. This victory permanently shifted the dominion in the Levant and Syria from the Byzantine Empire to the Caliphate. Moreover, this was the magnum opus of al-Khalid, who has been immortalized in legends for his triumph. After the death of the Islamic Prophet Muhammad, in 632 CE, his closest confidant, Abu Bakr, 632 to 634 CE, assumed control over the community as the first caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. Having taken the scepter, Abu Bakr faced an open rebellion from all corners of Arabia. Various tribes who had bowed before the Prophet declared that their covenant with Muhammad had ended with his life. These renegades were labeled as apostates and were confronted with the full might of Rashidun military in a series of engagements, later styled as the Ridda Wars. Khalid had distinguished himself in warfare, earned the nickname of Saifullah. The sword of Allah was one of the best strategies of his time. The most notable Rashidun military leader in this conflict was Khalid ibn Walid, a man cherished by Abu Bakr despite his flaws for his unparalleled talent in warfare. He had distinguished himself in warfare, earned the nickname of Saifullah, the sword of God, and was easily one of the best strategists of his time. He proved to be instrumental in ensuring Rashidun victory against the rebels, all of whom were subdued within a year. Abu Bakr then launched an expansion of his empire into Iraq and Syria. Khalid's division was sent to the former, where the Caliphal army enjoyed much success under him, but the threat of Byzantine counterattack on the Syrian divisions, who had gained considerable ground, prompted Abu Bakr to send Khalid there. Khalid crossed the barren and trackless desert with his best men, using camels as water reservoirs. They emerged on the fringes of Syria, where after some raiding and conquest, he defeated a major Byzantine force at Ajnadayan in 634 CE. Abu Bakr, in the meanwhile, died of natural causes and was replaced by Umar, 634 to 644 CE, who stripped Khalid of his command either because of his personal grudge or because of his harsh personality. In his stead, Abu Ubaidah, a man renowned for his moral standards, was made the governor of Syria and the commander of the Rashidun Corps stationed there. The Muslims continued to engulf the area. Damascus fell in 634 CE. The Byzantine garrison of Palestine was defeated in the Battle of Fahl, fell in 636 CE, leaving Aleppo only the march away. The Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, determined to rid his land of the Arabs, mustered up a huge force at Antioch to crush the invaders. The Byzantine field commander, Vahan, was an Armenian and had formerly served as a magister militium per Orientum, master of the soldiers in the east, top military commander of Emesa. The Theodore Triturius, the status treasurer, held the command in theory, but his presence was merely to boost the morale of the troops. Another notable figure among the Byzantine ranks was Jabalah, the Ghazinid ruler, who had profited much from his alliance with the Byzantine and felt no compunction in serving them against his fellow Arabs. The Rashidun army originally spread across Palestine, Jordan, Caesarea, and Emesa. After their earlier triumphs was regrouped and withdrawn southwards to the Yarmouk plateau. There they were further reinforced by fresh combatants from Medina, the Islamic capital, bringing their members of up to 20 to 25,000 on the eve of the battle. The battle. Although Khalid was not officially in command, he was highly respected for his skill in battle, and Abu Ubaidah, who lacked such experience, ceded and command to him. Initially, the Byzantines delayed their advance, wishing to strike simultaneously with the Sassanids, whom they had allied with after decades of war. But the rulers of Sasanian Empire, yes, the Great, third, required time to prepare, and the Byzantine, ever impatient to drive the Arabs out, advanced on their own. Khalid, knowing that their position in the north was vulnerable, withdrew his forces all the way to the valley beyond the Yarmuk River. This plateau was an undulating flat-land mass, making it very suitable for the Arab light cavalry, which accounted for a quarter of his army's strength. Negotiations dragged on for around 3 months. During this time, the Rashidun army was reinforced from Medina. Not content with further delay, both sides prepared for combat. Vahan used his numerical superiority to fan out on his front line to about 13 kilometers, forcing the Muslim line to stretch thinner and cover a ground of 12 kilometers to the face them. The Byzantine forces were placed in front of the Allen River with their right anchoring the gorge to the south and their left bordering the Jabiya hills. Vahan arranged his forces as such. The left flank consisted of the Slavic infantry facing the Muslim right, Armenian infantry under Vahan himself, and European contingents made up of the center. Greek infantry manned the right flank facing the Muslim left. Ghazanid, Ghazanid light cavalry under Jabala acted as the vanguard for the skirmishing. Cavalry divisions mostly consist of cataphracts, elite heavy mounted troops, very stationed behind each flank and the two central division. Khalid arrayed his 36 infantry regiments in a similar fashion in front of the Hari River, with three light cavalry divisions positioned him behind the line, and one larger cavalry reserve under his personal command in the rear. Unlike the multi-ethnic Byzantine forces, the Arabs were united not only in their nationalist sentiments but also by a common faith. In both armies, infantry consisted of melee fighters and skirmishers, such as archers, and although the Muslims lacked heavy troops, which abounded in the rank of their force, they made up for this loss with higher mobility and unparalleled skill in hand to hand combat. On August 15th, fighting was initiated with several duels, was, as was the custom in the region, in which the Muslim champions appear to have bested their foes. Following this, Vahan ordered the advance of merely a third of his force to probe the Muslims' lines for weaknesses. The fighting was not extreme, and the Byzantine retreated after the day's end, seeking to catch the Arabs by surprise. Vahan advanced at dawn on the following day, probably knowing that the Muslims would be busy offering their Fajr prayers. Khalid, however, had stationed scout patrols ahead of the main army in anticipation of such a surprise attack. The Byzantine, upon finding the Muslims completely alert, attacked anyway and locked their center in place as their flanks delivered the blows from either side. Muslim flanks, first the right and then the left, retreated to their camps, were aided by their women. They managed to hold the enemy until relieved by Khalid's cavalry reserve. The dauntless Muslim woman has been eloquently narrated by historian. The Muslims' right fell back and Byzantine troops reached one or more of the women camps. There, the retreating Muslim infantry and cavalry were met by their womenfolk who abused them for running away, beat drums, threw stones, and sang songs to shame the men back into battle. The same scenario was erected, enacted slightly later on the Muslims' left flank. The Byzantine continued to attempt to push through the Muslim ranks for the next 2 days. The just and just was Vahan's troop appeared to have made a breakthrough. Khalid would use his reserve to send them on the run. Seeking to buy some respite for his men, the Armenian field commander sued for peace on the fifth day, to the great shock of Abu Ubaidah, who was happily willing to comply. Khalid rejected the offer. The cunning general, the cunning general knew that the time to act was then. The fifth day ended without much fighting, and Khalid, knowing that his foes were demoralized, preparing an all-out assault for the next day, which had been his plan all along. In the dark of the night, he sent a cavalry detachment around the field to take over the only bridge on the Wadi Rakad, cutting off the only escape route of the imperial army. The fighting started in 20 August 636 CE with another duel where Abu Baida got the best of his foe, a Greek commanding officer named Grigory, and then the entire Muslim line charged. As the infantry locked their kind on the opposing side in place, Khalid sprang into action and led a huge cavalry force gathered from all of his cavalry division around the Byzantine left flank. Vahan realized too late that he had been outwitted, failed to organize his disarrayed cavalry in time, and the Muslims smashed the Byzantine left into their center. Surrounded on three fronts and wished to no hope of assistance from the cataphracts, the imperial troops began to rout, but unbeknownst to them, their escape had already been cut off. Imperial troops were massacred in their retreat and many drowned in the river, while some fell to their deaths from steep hills of the valley. Many jumped to their deaths to avoid melee with the Arabs. Khalid all but annihilated his foe and secured a crushing victory, whilst only taking around 4,000 casualties. Vahan either perished in the battle or, according to some, adopted a monastic lifestyle after the pulverizing defeat. Jabala is said to have defeated to the Rashidun side during the climax of the battle and accepted Islam in 638 CE, only to apostatize later on and escape to Armenia. Aftermath and conclusion. After the war, what happened? With this stunning victory, the Muslims held uncontested power over the Levant and Syria. Jerusalem, a holy city for the three monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, surrendered personally to the Caliph in 637 CE after receiving assurance of safety. Khalid bin al-Walid, however, did not receive the prestige that was rightfully him. Omar officially discharged him of duty upon his visit to to the region soon after the battle. Though the Khalid morals did not equal Umar's standards, there were some controversies against him. This action was much criticized, for it had been Khalid who saved the Muslim cause from certain doom. But Umar announced that he had done so to show the people that it was God alone who gave them victory. Khalid retired peacefully, although he is said to have complained to Umar, saying that he was being treated like dirt. Died in 642 CE and was buried in Homs. Though he had been encouraged by many to rebel against Umar, Khalid refused to do so. The Muslims soon engulfed Egypt, part of the North Africa, and several islands in the Mediterranean. On the Sasanian front, a similarly spectacular victory at the Battle of al-Qadisiyah in 636 CE also opened up a similar channel to conquest, swelling the Islamic empire to a titanic size in a matter of mere decades. Muslim success against these superpowers was due to a combination of reasons. Firstly, their maltreatment of the Syrian and Iraqis, respectively, inclined these people to not only welcome the new invaders but even assist them. Secondly, the years of fighting with each other had significantly weakened the two colossal empires. Thirdly, though the equipment of the Arab did not parallel that of their foes, their skill in combat was unexcelled, and the contribution of great generals like Khalid bin al-Walid cannot be underestimated either. So far, we discussed about in Byzantine Empire the Battle of Yarmouk. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.